Hello, everybody. It's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I'm so glad you guys are here for a new Tuesday tip video. We're going to be talking about another technique today. I'm going to teach you one of my new favorite techniques. This is called the Faux Twisted Paper. Guys, this is a fantastic way to use up scraps, and I know we all have plenty of those laying around, right? You can do this with designer series paper. You could do it with cardstock. You could emboss cardstock. Get creative with what you can do with this fantastic technique. I've also got two cards to share with you featuring this technique. I'm excited to teach you how to do this one, so let's go get started. So as you can see, I've got a couple different versions of the faux twisted paper technique to share with you. I'm going to do one that's going vertical and another one that's horizontal, but this one is a little different because it's a gatefold. I'm going to teach you how to create the faux ribbon, twisted ribbon once, and then we're going to cut it down. So stick around to the end of the video for that one. But first, we're going to start with this one here. I didn't forget your birthday. I'm just stretching out the celebration. But of course, this technique is what we want to focus on. Let me share the supplies you'll need for today's project. It looks like a lot, but I promise you it really isn't. I'm going to start with a Daffodil Delight card base. It is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5.5 inches. I have a piece of Melon Mambo. This is actually for the inside of my card, 4 by 5 1/4. I've got a second piece of Melon Mambo, 2 3/4 by 5.5. On top of that, I'm going to add a piece of basic black, and that is 2 1/2 by 5 1/4. And then we have the piece that's going to go on top. This is in basic white. And guys, this measurement's a little bit different. I have this cut at 2 3/4 by 5 1/4, and I did some scoring. With the 5 1/4 up at the top, I want to score at 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, and 5 inch, okay? So you can see we got, just that little bitty sliver of a piece right up there. Now we're gonna be trimming this one down before we adhere it. So I did purposely cut it a little bit bigger than what I needed. Oops, I almost forgot one. This is for the inside of the card. This is a 3 3/4 by 5 inch basic white. Just a little 2 by 2 scrap of some Granny Apple Green. That's gonna be for my focal image. And then of course, the star of this show is going to be some scraps of designer series paper. My friends, I have 10 strips. These are 1/2 inch by 4 inch. I've got 5 of each color. So I've chosen Daffodil Delight and Melon Mambo. By the way, these are all the same, but we could use either side. This is from the Brights collection. So I'm going to set all of that colored cardstock aside. We're going to go ahead and work on the technique and with that piece of cardstock. Now I'm going to bring in a silicone mat. That is an optional thing, but sometimes I do really love to have that mat underneath me as I work. So I'm going to start with my lightest color. I'm going to start with the Daffodil Delight. Now remember, I told you there's 2 different patterns on this. You could do your faux ribbon, twisted ribbon, in all the same pattern, or you could alternate if you'd like. Guys, it's really all about the creativity. And if you're not sure, I'm going to recommend that you lay all your pieces down first and kind of get a feel for what it's going to look like. Obviously, I'm not lining them up perfect. I just want to see if I like how that looks. And you know what? I think I do. So I am going to alternate mine. You can use any adhesive you want for this. I am going to use my multi-purpose glue. I think it's going to work really well for this. And guys, I'm just going to put the adhesive and leaving myself about a 1/2 inch on each end. Now, I'm going to have you watch this very carefully. There's that little 1/4 inch. Remember that little 1/4 inch score line? I want to line up this strip, the edge of it, at the top of that corner. And then coming over here, I'm going to line up this one with that second score line. Can you see? There's the first score line and there's the second. So I've gone up above this one and up above this one. All right, one of them's down. Now I can alternate. So that was a flower. So now I will do a stripe. And guys, it's very simple. Now we're just going to repeat that. So here's the top of that score line. And there is the bottom of that score line. We'll adhere that down. Don't worry about these ends being straight and all, because we're going to be trimming off the edges. And as I said, we're actually going to be trimming this down. I am going to repeat this. So one more time, finding the top of the one score line and the bottom of the next score line. For what it's worth, can you guys see these are actually spaced just the same as my designer series paper, so that helps too. But we are just going to repeat this all the way down, and this last one, it's just going to land right there at the point. All right, now that we have that one done, it's time to now come in with the melon mambo. Now, because I rotated these and I flip-flopped them on the way down, I'm going to do the same thing with my melon mambo. So I'm going to use some that are polka dots and some that are gingham. So I'm going to have a little fun with this one. And guys, we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. There's that 1/4 inch up at the top. I will put a piece of my designer series paper and line it up right there. And then this one is going to line up right down there. Can you see how it's just going to touch the edge? That's all we're going to do. So let's go ahead and do some more gluing. If you have missed any measurements, don't worry about it. I've got that free download for you. You can find that over at simplysimplestamping.com, or the easy way, just look down in that YouTube description. You're going to find a direct link to today's post. Scroll down, look for the big blue download button, and you can have that tutorial, which will have your measurements, your supply list, photographs, and if you even need to go back and watch this video again for a refresher, that will be there for you too. Okay. We've created the faux ribbon paper, right? Now let me show you how to create 2 fantastic cards featuring that design. All right, that is all done. Yep, I'm really glad I used that silicone mat because I can see I had some glue that was coming off here. But again, I'm not worried about it. You do want to make sure this is good and dry before we do any cutting. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to let this dry for a minute, and I'm going to come over and I'm going to keep working on my card. And that way we have something to do while we're waiting. Okay, I'll tell you what, I have got this piece of the melon mambo. Let's go ahead and add that to the inside of our card. Since we're working on the inside, I am ready to share with you my fun little trick. We're going to take that 3 3/4 by 5 inch basic white, and we're going to bring in the bundle for our card today. This is one of the brand new bundles from the January through April mini catalog from 2023. I want to show you this really great little die that's going to come in this bundle. So it's got just a little flower and a couple leaves on it. I'm going to place that right up here at the top of my cardstock and run that through my machine. Now, if you don't have a die cutting machine, you can skip this step. That is perfectly fine. But you can see it gives us this great little flower up here at the top. Now, I'm going to stamp underneath this with a Memento black ink pad, and we're just going to do a simple happy birthday just right underneath that. Now, we're going to make this image pop here in a minute, but I'll tell you what, for right now, until we get to that part, I'm going to add this here to the inside of my card. Now I have a pink flower, and I like that. My little trick I'm going to share with you is going to be on those leaves. We'll do that here towards the end after we're done decorating the front. So there is the inside of our card. Now remember these 2 pieces? That was the melon mambo and the basic black that layered on top of each other. Well, you know what? We're going to get creative using these 2 pieces because they're not going to be seen. They're going to be hidden. I'm going to come in with the medium daisy punch, and I want to punch out, I should say, 2 daisies. And you're going to want to stick to the inside because we're going to be covering it, and we don't want that to show. So there are my 2 daisies. Let me set that off to the side. Now, here on my basic black, we're going to go ahead and do our sentiment. And I love sentiments that are on basic black popped with white embossing powder. So let's do a little embossing today. All right, I'm going to use my embossing additions kit. So the first thing I want to do is take the embossing buddy, and I'm going to prep that basic black cardstock. Just rub the embossing buddy over it. What that's going to do is remove any oils that may have been on my hands, hand lotion, anything like that, because embossing powder is going to want to stick to everything. Now, to stamp, we're going to use a Versamark pad. And right here in the center of our black cardstock. I have stamped in Versamark. You notice you can't see anything. This is a clear pad. It's perfect for leaving a watermark, but it's also perfect for embossing. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and use my little reversible tweezers here so that I'm kind of ready. Have my brush handy. I've got the white embossing powder. This is from the Basics embossing collection. So white, black, and clear. And what I'm going to do is tap off my card. Now with this brush, if you have any little stray embossing pieces, they're going to show up, and especially they're going to show up on that black cardstock. So be sure to brush anything away that shouldn't be there, anything that does not belong. I'm going to move that out of the way so I can bring in my heat tool. Now I will tell you, I like to heat up my heat tool for about 30 seconds before I start using it on my image here. So let me warm this up. All right, that's gotten warm. And so what I'm going to do is, you notice I'm holding this up and kind of away from my table. And I want to keep my heat tool about, 3-4 inches away from my project. And you notice I'm kind of gently moving it. What I'm doing is I'm warming up the cardstock and warming up that embossing powder. And what we're going for is we're waiting for this embossing powder to melt, which can you see it starting to do? Yep, let me just hit all of these edges. You notice it was kind of dull, but when everything is melted, you see it's going to be all nice, bright white. It's magical and it's gorgeous. I love heat embossing. All right, now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and bring the dies back in. And let's find the die. I think it's going to be this one here. Yeah, that one looks like it's going to fit just right with my sentiment. Now, I do need to tell you again, if you don't have dies or you don't own a die cutting machine, don't worry about it. You can still do this project. I have no idea why I put that away because I am going to die cut that. You could just cut this into a rectangle instead. I'm going to die cut it because I love the looks of these dies. I also love that you can save 10% when you buy this as a bundle, when you buy the stamp set and the dies together. And hey, it's perfect. We got so many different sentiments and all those fun little label dies. It's a really fun one to work with. All right, sentiment is done. I'm now going to take these two horrible looking pieces. I'm going to adhere these together, but as I said, you're not going to see any of that ick underneath. I'm going to adhere this now onto my daffodil card base. There's the inside. We're going to go ahead and add this. And you know, now that I've done all of that, I am darn certain that my glue is perfectly dry on my faux twisted ribbon. And now I can show you what we're going to do with that. Yep, it is definitely good and dry. So we need to trim off all of these little extra pieces. And I'm actually just going to start here up at the top just to get a little bit out of the way. Because remember I told you, we're going to be trimming this entire piece down. The top is now flat and I need this to be 2.5 inches. So I'm going to put it into my paper trimmer with the 2 5/8 inch. And there's one end. I don't know, boy, that's actually kind of interesting looking, isn't it? Now I'm going to flip it around and I will cut it at 2.5. So there is all of my 2.5. Wasn't a nice quick way to get all those pieces off too? Okay, we have one more cut we need to do. And I think you can see which end we're going to take it from. This one's nice and neat. We need to trim off this one. And my friends, we're cutting that down to 5 inches. Now, again, the reason I did that, look at how nice and clean my final product is. I didn't have to worry about trying to trim all of these off. Trust me, this works so much easier. All those score lines that we made on here, guess what? You can't even see them. And now we cover up all of that ick underneath, but look at how we saved cardstock. We didn't have to bring in anything else. We used our layers. So we have those 2 flowers, the 2 daisies. And before I adhere those together, I'm going to do another quick little stamping technique. This one is a favorite. It's called my little polka dot technique. This is a brand new pencil eraser, and I keep using it over and over, but you just don't want a pencil eraser that you have used as an eraser. And you can see I just inked it up on the ink pad and created a little black dot there in the middle. It didn't get it quite as dark as I wanted, but that's okay. I can go over it again, and that looks much better. Now I kind of have a nice, just a good pop in the center of my flower. We're going to adhere these together, and when you do that, you're going to want to go off center so that we fill up that daisy nicely. Now I needed some petals, right? I wanted some petals. And you know, I found that the Ladybug Builder had these really fantastic leaves in it. They're actually wings, but you know what? They also make great leaves as well. I'm going to bring in that little 2x2, and you can see I'm just going to punch some leaves. And then with this that I have left over, I'm going to bring that little die back in, and I'm going to die cut so that I get those 2 little leaves. And then we'll add these to the inside, put everything together. I've got my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to use that fabulous little putty end. And I'm going to grab my multi-purpose glue, which I used earlier, just a tiny dot of glue. It's not going to take a lot, but this is going to be a great way to fill in with these leaves. So let me grab this one here, and look at this. It's just going to tuck right in, cover up that pink. Oh my goodness, it does turn it so cute. I love it. Okay, that is the inside of my card. Now for the outside, I'm going to adhere my ladybug wings / leaves onto my daisy. And actually, I'm going to do something different with that. I'm going to flip that over, and to adhere it down, I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals because I want some dimension on the back of this flower. I think I'm going to add a third one just to be safe. I will remove these backings, and I'm going to add that there to the front of my card. My sentiment, I'm going to use dimensionals on the back of that one as well. And you can simply tuck that right underneath. I'm telling you, that is stinking cute. Am I right? I love how this one turned out. Now, remember, I did share with you this other card. So I do want to teach you how I did this technique. And by the way, you can see this is a gatefold with a little lock on it. And we did some more of that kind of fun, fancy die cutting there on the inside of this card. But I want to share with you this technique. All right, so this one is cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. And what you're going to want to do is with the 4 1/4 up at the top, we're going to score at 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we have that little 1/4 of an inch right here. So kind of the same thing, a little bit different. But you notice I've already gone ahead and started to get my designer series paper adhered down. I want that silicone mat there one more time. Now with this paper, I am going to just use the 2 sides of one single piece. And this is from the Butterfly Kisses. So remember, there's that little 1/4 inch, and I went just above it and all the way down. And you notice it's bigger than what we're going to need. But now we can go and repeat with the pretty little, this is the opposite side of the paper. And remember, adhesive all the way down. We'll go up above, and this can sit right on the edge of that one. And we just keep repeating that. Boy, once you get that first one down, I'm telling you, it goes really, really quickly. Now, did you notice I used a little bit different size designer series paper here? That is correct. These are 8 pieces, 4 of each color, 1/2 by 5 inches. So yeah, these are a little bit longer, but we're going to get a little bit more bang for our buck in this one as well. I have everything adhered in place. And I can see up here at the top, there's not a lot that I have to trim out of the way. You're going to see that one piece is going to be much easier than the other. I'll just get those out of my way. That way I have a nice flat end to work with here. So we're going to start, just take a smidge, okay? Just take a smidge off. We'll cut that. That gives us that nice straight edge. Now we want this piece cut down to 4 inches. So we can cut that off. So now our base is 4 inches, and this needs to be cut at 5 inches. And now we'll be able to get the rest of that. So I have a 4 by 5 inches. Now we're going to cut this in half. So with the 5 inches at the top, We're going to cut it in half to 2.5 inches. Boom, there are our cut pieces for our gatefold card. My gatefold card itself is a 4.25 by 11 piece of Highland Heather, and I've scored that at 2 3/4 inch on each side. That's going to ensure that fold will go together there in the middle. Then you can see there are the pieces that I just created, and I'm going to add those to the front of my gatefold. I used the same dies and, of course, the same sentiment, or the same sentiment set, that's something fancy. And I used these dies right here, only I layered. So I'm going to have you cut an additional piece of Highland Heather, and of course that little scrap of the Granny Apple Green, and adhere that card together. And you can see my daisy, when I adhere that with the Stampin' Dimensionals, I just did it right over my gatefold. And by the way, that gatefold, keep in mind, that is only here on the right side. So when you put your adhesive on it, you only want adhesive here on this side. This section right here, I stamped my sentiment so I knew right where it was, and then I took the matching die and I laid one right there and ran it through my machine. I ran another one right there through my machine. That was easy enough. And then now I have that great Granny Apple Green coming through. So my leaves are already green. So that little technique that we did over here where we added the two pieces, no need to do that on this one because they're already green. And of course it adds that really wonderful layer. My sentiment just tucks right under. My friends, the faux ribbon technique, twisted ribbon technique, super fun. You're going to want to give this one a try. It's a great way to use up those scraps. Mix and match, have some fun. It really is a nice and relaxing technique. Give it a try. Thank you so much, my friends, for joining me today. If you liked the video, would you give me a thumbs up on YouTube? I always appreciate that. And if you have not subscribed, oh my goodness, it's so easy. Just click the great big red subscribe button, and YouTube will let you know whenever I'm back with a new video or a new live. Thank you again for being here. Can't wait to stamp with you next time, guys. Bye-bye.